Oh no. Zack Snyder's Justice League is now out on HBO Max. The fabled Snyder Cut that a lot of people, myself included, claimed didn't exist. And we were not wrong to an extent, keyword being were. It does exist now, and it's out for everyone to see in all of its 4-hour glory. I guess I'll just get this out of the way right now. I'm not the biggest fan of Zack Snyder's movies. I mean, don't get me wrong, the dude himself seems endlessly kind and humble. And his movies aren't bad, per se. Most of them, anyway. I just personally can't really vibe to all his movies. I think he overuses slow-mo to the point of ruining the pacing a lot of the time, and in the case of Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, the desaturated look he goes for is not what I like in comic book movies, and his versions of the characters aren't how I like those characters. There are great moments in those movies that I love and I'm pretty sure everyone else loves. And again, they're not bad movies per se, most of them anyway, I just personally don't enjoy them. So I wasn't initially excited for 4 hours of Snyder's Justice League movie, especially since I liked the 2017 version well enough. It was more colorful, which I enjoyed. It was a hell of a lot goofier, to a fault a lot of the time, but I could overlook that. And there were some lines added in reshoots that I actually loved, despite a lot of people hating.
I believe in truth. But I'm also a big fan of justice. Any blowback?
Big time. But I think we could take it.
Good. 'Cause I really like being alive.
So do I.
And it's not like a competition, you know? Well, it is a competition.
But if I win, you're off the team.
But I have to say, now that the Snyder Cut's been released, and having seen it myself, I was pleasantly surprised. Blown away, in fact, by one, how much of an improvement it is over the 2017 version, and two, how unironically good it is. It's by far my favorite Snyder movie, and possibly one of the best comic book movies I've ever watched. That last one may be an exaggeration, but I really am surprised by how much I enjoyed it, especially since I wasn't that excited for it to begin with. But even though I wasn't that excited for it, I was happy that it was happening. See, I'm always on the side of filmmakers in any situation, and in Snyder's, I was definitely on his side, considering what happened with Warner Brothers and all that. If you're not up to speed with what'll happen behind the scenes, I'll briefly explain it. But to do that, we need to go back in time. Which is an unintentional reference to the best scene in this movie, but here we go! So after Man of Steel, Zack Snyder went ahead and made his sophomore film in his planned 5-film arc in the DCEU, Batman v Superman. And if you ask me, and a lot of other people, it's a miserable film to sit through. But that was kind of the point. Zack Snyder wanted it to be one of the darkest entries in the DCEU. And I don't think all the bad was his fault, but there's still a lot of bad.
Why did you say that name?
As a result, Warner Brothers decided to step in and change things. Given that the biggest criticism lobbied against the film was its dark tone, the studio decided to do what all studios do and meddle. Suicide Squad, which had just recently wrapped filming, was to now undergo reshoots to give it a lighter tone. Same with Justice League, only it was about to start shooting. There was a lot of back and forth on the tone of the film, even though Snyder reportedly already wanted to give it a lighter tone to begin with. However, things only got worse when Zack Snyder's daughter tragically passed away during production. I'm gonna skip over the details for a lot of reasons, but Snyder actually finished the film and stepped down during post-production due to the tragedy. The studio then hired Joss Whedon to rewrite and redirect basically the whole movie. And then it was released to theaters. Remember how I said there were a few lines I liked in the theatrical cut? Well, for every line I liked, there's about 10 other things that make the film much worse.
He said that you were the thirstiest young woman he'd ever met. Hungriest.
Like brunch. Like, what is brunch?
Mother, do you bleed? Yeah. Something is definitely bleeding.
What was it like? Coming back?
Itchy.
90% of what Snyder had shot was either drastically changed or outright removed from the theatrical cut. What resulted from this troubled production was two directors' visions Frankenstein together in one horrific, cringy, disrespectful mess. That's not even touching on all the alleged abuse and unprofessional behavior behind the scenes from Joss Whedon. Either way, over the next few years, information and even small looks at Snyder's original vision started to come out. Fans, actors involved, and even Snyder himself started the famous campaign, #ReleaseTheSnyderCut. In the same way that Richard Donner got to go back and finish his original cut of Superman 2, fans wanted Zack Snyder to have that same opportunity. And no matter how you look at the guy or his films, every director in this kind of situation deserves that. It seemed impossible though. A pipe dream. Warner would never do that, especially since they've continued the DCEU after all this. That is until May 20th, 2020, when Zack Snyder officially announced that HBO Max would be releasing his original director's cut as Zack Snyder's Justice League. And now we're all caught up. And yeah, Zack Snyder's Justice League is good. And this is coming from someone who does not like Snyder's films. Like I said, around 90% of his original movie was removed from the final cut back in 2017. So watching this really is like watching a completely different movie. One that's infinitely more fleshed out, better paced despite the 4-hour runtime, and fun. This is a fun comic book movie with gorgeous visuals. I like my comic book movies colorful and weird. And yeah, this movie gets pretty colorful and it gets pretty weird. Almost every shot with the moon in it looks painted, which I love. There's a lot of fantastical imagery and set pieces, and some surreal dream sequences that fucking rule. The climax takes place in an abandoned Russian town near a nuclear plant that's been turned into a stronghold straight out of H.R. Giger's nightmares. A high school quarterback turned cybernetic superhero fights to separate three twitchy, witchy horror movie monsters through the power of acceptance.
I'm not broken.
Scott earned the power of self-respect.
I can't not like this movie. Oh, and speaking of, Cyborg is by far the best character in this. Almost all of his scenes and characterization were criminally taken out of the theatrical cut, so to see his super emotional 10-minute backstory tied into a neat little visual rundown of all his powers here was incredible. He's a tragic character who, by all accounts, should hate the world.
Fuck the world.
But in a scene that genuinely brought me to tears, he uses his new powers for good, and basically becomes a robot Robin Hood. He makes the world that wronged him a better place, and that is how I like my heroes. Not only Cyborg, but everyone and everything is better in this movie. The Flash has one of the best scenes I've ever had the pleasure of sitting through in a comic book movie. Aquaman has some of the best scenes in this movie, especially concerning the other members of the team.
How's Victor doing?
I thought you didn't care.
I never said that.
Arthur, yes. Your opinion, less preposterous. Option A?
Definitely not A.
Okay. Or B?
Let me see A again.
Wonder Woman has more depth in this version, in a subplot that's entirely new. Batman actually feels like Batman in this movie, and is the main proponent of this film's message. Hope. Second chances. His relationship with Alfred is also super cute and wholesome, and there's a lot of good scenes with them. It's definitely a far cry from his last outing in this universe.
What do you got? What do you got? Come again! Come on, you bastard!
Superman. God, where do I even start with Superman? Infinitely better in this version. Despite the fact that I haven't liked this version of the character in Man of Steel or Batman v Superman, I loved him in this. This is the Superman I know. Even the villain is better this time around. Before, Steppenwolf was a gross-looking dude with an Oedipus complex. Now, he has more emotion. Not only in his motivation, but in his fucking face. There were a lot of scenes where I felt for Steppenwolf purely due to his facial expressions and animations. He's a dude who fucked up and fell from Darkseid's glory and desperately wants to atone. Oh yeah, Darkseid is in this fucking movie. Not only that, but Martian Manhunter? Two characters who, and I'm not big into DC Comics, so I don't know their specific details, but I know they're big. I know they're important. I know they weren't in the theatrical version. Also, the team just works together better, like as a unit. There are a lot of fun teamwork scenes that are just so satisfying and fulfilling on such an innate level. I don't need to explain why I like a scene of Aquaman sending out a shockwave that Cyborg charges up so it shoots the enemy flying away from them. I don't need to explain why I like that. That's just cool. The music's better, and I liked Danny Elfman's score from the theatrical cut, but the music here is just way better. When Darkseid shows up, the composer Tom Holkenborg, or Junkie XL, goes fucking ham, and it's rightfully fantastical and over the top. The reincorporation of Hans Zimmer's themes and motifs from Man of Steel are really moving and really effective. Man, the music when Flash reverses time to literally save the universe at the end. It is the best scene, it's the best part of the soundtrack. It's also really gory. Like, for no reason. I like my comic book movies weird, and yeah, it's weird that a Justice League movie is really brutal and over the top for no reason, but it fits for this version of the story. Plus, I like the presentation. A lot of people had issue with the 4:3 aspect ratio, but I dig it. It's the full frame, it has a nice aesthetic to it. I don't know, my name is MikeyOnVHS, and 4:3 is the standard VHS aspect ratio. I don't know, man. I genuinely don't know what else to say about this movie. I can't believe I love a Zack Snyder movie this much. And don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. There are a few questionable scenes, like when Wonder Woman brutally murders a few terrorists and then immediately leans down to inspire a little girl.
Can I be like you someday?
The nightmare sequence feels completely out of place and tacked on, because it was a reshoot done by Snyder himself. And this isn't a bad scene or moment per se, but I just can't help but laugh every time I watch it.
Description matches the suspect in the Metropolis abductions.
Parademons.
You know this one girl with hair like this?
Yes, that's Ramona Flowers.
But what this movie does well, it does well. The good far outweighs the bad here. It's a good Zack Snyder movie. It's a good Justice League movie. I'm glad he got this kind of opportunity, and honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing the 2 sequels he had planned. I don't think they'd be a good fit for theaters, just like I don't think this would have been a good fit for theaters. I think his style just works better as like a streaming exclusive with little restrictions. It's not exactly a good movie, it's not exactly a good TV show, it's kind of like right in the middle. It's weird. It's a very good streaming platform thing. Does that make sense? Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. Of course, it didn't seem like the Snyder Cut was going to happen either, but here we are. At the end of the day, I'm happy for Zack Snyder, and I do hope he gets to finish what he had planned for this series. It's what he deserves after all he's been through. This film is dedicated to his late daughter, Autumn, and that was a real emotional kick that really drove home how important this is. Good for Zack Snyder, good for the Justice League. Honestly, I'm on board now. Restore the Snyderverse. If his next 2 movies were going to be as good as this one was, I'm all for it. Maybe keep this in like its own little universe, its own like distinct timeline like Joker was. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by Zack Snyder's Justice League. Whew, that was a long video and I'm very sweaty. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like, leave a comment, share this with your friends. It would really help the channel and me, and I would love you forever. What did you think of the Snyder Cut, if you watched it? I mean, it is 4 hours. It's kind of a commitment. Also, please let me know what you thought of this whole setup. Something I'm trying out. Thought it'd be fun. Also, thank you so much for 100 subscribers. That's awesome. It may seem small to a lot of people, but it means the world to me. So thank you all very much from the bottom of my heart. I make these videos for fun, and it really means a lot that there are people out there who watch them and like them. So thank you. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.